If you're tired of procrastinating, having low energy, and not feeling motivated, this video is for you. And in this video, I'm going to share with you my 30-day dopamine detox that'll increase your motivation, knock out your to-do list, and give you more energy while you do it all. But before we get started, go ahead and subscribe to this channel at any point that I create value for you. Give it a thumbs up. And if you got a question, drop it in the comments below. I love to answer it. So before we get too far into this video, first thing we need to do is identify what the dopamine detox actually is doing. So what we're doing is we're going to decrease stimulation, we're going to decrease cheap dopamine hits, and we're going to stop self-medicating so we can actually realize what the problem is. Because whether you're scrolling on social media, whether you're eating processed foods, whether you're drinking alcohol or getting high at night, whatever you're doing, you're essentially finding means to self-medicate, which is essentially saying that these are unhealthy coping mechanisms that you're using to avoid something in your life or to avoid multiple things in your life that are hurting you, but this is what you're doing to soothe that pain. And I know that can sound a little intense, but essentially what I found out in doing this 30-day dopamine detox challenge was that instead of speaking up for myself, and I was continually avoiding conflict and putting other people in front of me or ahead of me, then by means of, to cope with that, I was using alcohol, I was using weed, and I was using nicotine, and I was using all these vices to essentially self-soothe all the problems that I was avoiding. And in not having access to my phone or, scrolling on social media, not being able to eat processed foods, not having alcohol, not having weed, and all the other stuff in this dopamine detox, I was able to literally face what the issue was, because I wasn't able to cope with it anymore. So not being able to cope with it, every day I was like, ow, this hurts, ow, this hurts, ow, this hurts. And I was like, oh my gosh, I see what I've been avoiding this whole time. And that is the beauty of this dopamine detox. So, and if you guys want to do this dopamine detox, I have a free link to it in the description box below on the Milanote. And you guys can open it and join me on this while we go through the foundation. And this is 30 days in a row with no breaks, no vacations, 30 solid days of resetting our dopamine receptors and decreasing all that stimulation and filling our lives full of good dopamine hits. And guys, I'm excited for you if you do this, because it will give you so much energy and you'll see how much more efficient you are with your times. You're going to feel better, you're going to have higher energy, you're going to feel more motivated, and you're going to understand how to jump in a flow state every day, which I swear is the magic of this. So if you made it this far, let's get started. So number one, what we're going to do is no phone for the first hour of the day. And this is really simple. If your alarm's on your phone, that's okay. And if you have Wi-Fi lights on your phone, that's okay. That's the only thing you can, turn on in the morning. Essentially, when I did this, I'd turn off my alarm and I'd turn on my lights in my living room. But you cannot check messages, you cannot check social media notifications, you cannot do anything besides what your basic necessity is of maybe turning off your alarm or turning on your lights. That's it. And you don't need your phone for the first hour of the day. Like, this is probably one of the cheapest dopamine hits that a lot of people start their days off with, and it's like, once you start your day with a cheap dopamine hit, you have to continually feel it. So this is a huge one I encourage you to do. Number two is, as soon as you get up, you're gonna put your feet on the earth. And if you live in an apartment building, just find grass somewhere, and if there's no grass, just put your feet out on your balcony. Just find some solid ground. The closer to the ground possible, the better, and the more stuff that's growing on it, the better, because essentially what we're doing is grounding into the earth. Because while we sleep, we're in this DMT state of essentially being everywhere at once, and we're always dreaming, whether we're awake or asleep. But when we're asleep, we're able to jump because there's no time, and then we come back in our bodies and we're a little stressed out. So what we're going to do is just put our feet on the earth for 3 to 5 minutes, whether you're walking around, grounding, meditating. I just want you to connect to the earth, because this will not only slow you down, it'll help your body feel more centered. And then once you finish putting your feet on the earth in the morning, you're going to come up and meditate for 5 to 10 minutes. And this can just be a simple meditation. It doesn't have to be anything structured. All we're trying to do is clear our thoughts so we can start our minds on a very centered note for the day. And what I found out in this meditation that I was doing daily when I was doing this process was essentially, it helped me clear my mind and gather all the thoughts that I had of what I need to get done for the day. And I found it as a really useful time to create my schedule for the day. And I'm excited to hear what you guys essentially figure out for yours. Next, after that, what we're going to do is, this is one of the hardest things, actually. This is a big moment in this video. And one of the hardest things that a challenge is doing one thing at a time. One thing. So if you're making dinner, you're making dinner. If you're eating dinner, you can only eat dinner. So that doesn't mean like have other conversations or watch TV or listen to music. You can only do one thing at a time. And some examples of this that I found difficult was like, I love to sit in the sauna and listen to podcasts. So during this challenge, all I did was sit in the sauna. I didn't listen to podcasts. but it allowed me to have time, once again, to have low stimulation, quietness, and be intently focused on exactly what I was doing. And I realized this too when I was eating. It actually made eating a lot more enjoyable because I was focused on the taste. I was eating, I could taste all the aromas. It was really beautiful. And essentially what this did for me was it decreased the overall stimulation and it increased my intentionality across the board with everything that I was doing, which I think added a lot of positivity back into my life that I was kind of bypassing by doing too many things at once. Another big part of the challenge is no processed foods. And this is a big one because essentially what we do is by eating processed foods are essentially this perfect combination of fats, sugars, and oils that essentially give us a cheap dopamine hit, and it causes our brains to light up. And it's essentially what makes fast food and processed foods addicting is they're biologically researched and developed to be addictive. And what a lot of people do is we actually, the common thing with like what you do with processed foods is you eat them at night or after a hard day. We have comfort meals. The comfort meals are essentially the dopamine dump come from the processed foods. But essentially, a lot of people, we tend to self-medicate and cope unhealthily with food to avoid our problems. And what this is going to do is, number one, it's going to completely rearrange your diet by eating healthy foods. So what I did was eat a ton of chicken, rice, potatoes, fruits, vegetables. And what I actually found was before this challenge, I was just lighting up the stimulants from like coffee, energy drinks, and you name it, I was doing it. But this forced me to actually eat healthy foods. And by eating healthy foods, my blood sugar was, I'd say, a lot more sustainable throughout the day on even. There wasn't a lot of highs and lows. And I actually felt really good. And not only that, I had a ton of energy from the food I was eating. And something that I thought would be very hard actually became one of the most beneficial parts of this practice. So overall, no processed foods, no sweets, no treats, no sugar. Just eat healthy. It'll be hard because America on every corner is filled with bad options and temptations. But by doing this, you are going to grow so much. So just hunker down, get through it, have fun with what you're cooking and what you're making, or also just do some meal prepping. Have somebody meal prep for you. It will create a lot of help for you. As I mentioned, no sugar, no candy, no sweets. That one should be pretty easy to realize. If you absolutely need chocolate, you can have dark chocolate that is made from cacao. It has to be 100% cacao to not be considered a sweet in this, but it is a good source of a heart opener and also for your brain. All right, so no medicating. So this is no alcohol, no weed, no nicotine outside of work, and no music outside of work. And we'll get to the outside of work stuff. And then the last one is no porn. That one should be easy for a lot of y'all, right? That one was the simplest for me. I don't do that. It's weird. Anywho, so by not medicating, what we're doing is essentially we have to face all of our problems head on. And I found this to be the most beneficial part of this challenge is essentially every night I would drink alcohol, I would smoke weed, and I'd have nicotine. And essentially what I was doing was giving myself an extremely high dopamine high to bypass all the pain that I was doing throughout the day. And this was essentially from avoiding conflict, not speaking up for myself. And I think what is the other one I said at the beginning of this video? Those are the two biggest ones. Oh, and putting other people before me. So essentially what I did throughout this challenge by not having these vices to lean on is every day, like the same shit was happening. And I was like, coming back home, and when I'd go to reach for my vices, I was like, shit, I can't have those. And then slowly it just started like coming to me, and I was like, through the journaling prompts that we'll get to too, it was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm continually putting other people first, so I'm not getting my stuff done. Check. I have continually had issues where I didn't speak up for myself, so I let myself down, stuffed it down. Okay. And you kind of see the gist of it all is like, it makes you face yourself, which is probably one of the hardest parts of this challenge. But in being able to face yourself and look at yourself clearly in a mirror, you will find so many answers that you've been looking for. And this will happen probably in the first week, and you're going to be blown away with it. So this is a part that I'm actually really excited for anybody watching this video. And whatever your vices are, I encourage you to let them down. As mentioned in this, the few exceptions that I really do like about this, and what this does is this is a very powerful part of this dopamine challenge. Dopamine detox challenge is when you work, you can have caffeine, you can have nicotine, and you can listen to music, which makes that a very powerful part of your day. And if somebody who procrastinates, guess what? You can have that stuff while you're working, which makes it so powerful. And I think this is actually something I found extremely useful from this dopamine detox is it endlessly had me leaning into work because I love drinking caffeine and I love listening to music. And by not having those, I was literally like, what the heck? What are we doing? Like, what do I do? And I didn't know what to do. So then essentially what I did was I started working more, and essentially I started knocking out stuff systematically, because I was like, work gets really fun when it's the only time that you can have coffee and music. And if you chew nicotine or use nicotine, that is the only other time that you can have it. And let me tell you, when you start working, you go into an instant flow state. And not only that, you start just knocking out stuff efficiently. And before you know it, you're like, oh my God, I love working. And that's kind of what this does, is it takes away all the cheap dopamine hits around you and only gives you the dopamine hits during work, which is so magical. All right, so then outside of that, as mentioned in that portion, no music. And this is especially when driving in a car. And this is one of the hardest things I thought would be difficult for me, and it actually was really fun. So essentially what I did when I was driving in my car is I started singing. It allowed me to get more creative, and through this whole process I got way more creative. Like, I just felt like my brain was starting to get creative because I didn't have all these little parts in my life that were, I guess, creating creativity for me. Does that make sense? So by not watching shows, by not scrolling on content, by not listening to music, like, life gets pretty dull, but then your brain naturally starts to open up and get more creative to have more pleasure and more fun in your life, which is another benefit of this. Or if you guys haven't already seen all these benefits from this, it's insane. Next one is no TV shows, no streaming. That kind of goes to the self-medicating. So the only thing that you can watch streaming wise is stuff for business. So if it's like, work videos, marketing videos, sales videos. For instance, like during this whole process, I was watching James Smith and Dan Coe because, number one, I wanted to see content. Number two, they're just awesome and I learned so much from them. So if it's something like that, you can do it, but also make sure that you're not creating reasons to watch content that you don't need to. That's where the self-discipline comes in on this. No music outside of work. We already covered that one. Daily movement. So what you need to do is a daily movement, and this can be go for a walk. This can be workout or yoga, swimming. You get the gist. Like, just have some sort of activity in your day, and it doesn't have to be anything like excruciating. It's kind of like 75 hard, but it's just like pick something to do. Whether it's for 15 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, just get in some type of movement. Essentially, movement's really good for your body. It's really good for dopamine. And if you can, even taking like a 45-minute walk actually increases your dopamine levels substantially. So just do that. Just figure out some type of movement that you can get your body into, because it's a good habit to get into on a daily basis. Next topic is reading a book. And this is essentially where we're going to start the wind down portion of this, or the nightly portion of this, is essentially the reading a book. And it doesn't have to be an entire book. It's just read 5-10 pages, a chapter. Whatever's sustainable for you is what you need to do. But what you're going to do is read some type of book. After that, or along with that, you're going to stretch. Stretching is so important before bed. So we're going to read a book or read part of a book. We're going to stretch, and we're going to have no phone 1 hour before we go to bed. And that was probably one of the easier ones for me, and actually it led to way better sleep. Stretching was a little bit more difficult for me because I hate slowing down. I'm not a slow moving guy. I don't know why, but that one was difficult for me. And then, I think that was it. Oh, and then journaling. That's the last part. So journaling, at the end of every day, what you're going to do is journal. And I have 3 prompts for you, and these are also on the Milanote too, is how did you show up for yourself today? And what this is going to continually do is show you what you're doing to expand yourself. And for me personally, for somebody who was really good at putting other people first and other people ahead of them and continually people pleasing, this allowed me to look at what I was doing for myself, how I was showing up for myself. And a lot of the stuff that I would reflect on this journal answer came from was the dopamine challenge of stuff that I was doing. Like, I wasn't eating processed foods. I was really proud of myself. Or just like, each part of this challenge, you'll find a part to be proud of yourself, but just like, address how did you show up for yourself today. And by the way, for this journal stuff, put it in a separate notebook. It's really easy there. Number 2 is, did you get one thing done? And this is huge, because I think every day if you get one thing done, you start to see how much you're actually getting done. And if you don't get that one thing done, what you're probably doing is working on a bunch of little things instead of focusing on one thing. But what this question will do is, at the end of this challenge, you're going to be focused on getting one thing done a day. And then you'll also learn how to essentially make one thing at the end of the week, and then use all 5 or 7 days, 1 hour, 2 hour slots per day to get that one thing done in the week. And then you essentially get this really nice recipe for getting stuff done. And then the last question is, what is one thing that you will improve tomorrow? And that is, I think, just a really good self-development and personal development question that really just gives us that idea to look forward and what we can do better every day, because essentially there's no competition in comparing yourself with anybody else in the world. What it does is it pulls you back to competing with yourself. And if you're continually getting better day by day, you're going to continually show up better day by day. You're going to attract better people, better experiences, and better things into your life. So guys, that is the 30-day dopamine detox. If you guys want to do this, once again, and if you've made it this far in the video and you haven't seen the download in the Milanote below or the description box below, there's a Milanote link. You can duplicate that and you can use this as your 30-day dopamine detox. So aside that, guys, let me know if you guys are going to commit to the dopamine detox. You can drop that in the comments below. I'm committing to starting the dopamine detox on this day, whatever day that is for you. And then good luck, get started. I'm excited to hear you guys' success through it all, through the highs and the lows. It is very difficult, but at the same time, how much you grow from this is absolutely insane. The positive benefits it brings into your life are absolutely insane. And by the end of this, the most insane part is you probably won't want to quit it. You'll probably keep it going like I did. So guys, good luck. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.